We're going to determine if this is a perfect squared trinomial and justify our answer. X squared minus 8x plus 64. When we factor this, we can factor out that 8 and 8 give us 64, or negative 8 and negative 8 give us 64. However, when we add negative 8 and negative 8, we get negative 16. So this is not a perfect square trinomial because we multiply again negative 8 times negative 8 to give us positive 64 as a perfect square, because remember we should be able to square b. Alright, so again, if I'm writing this out as it will be x minus 8 because that's what I came up with here as a factor. So remember, you should be able to write it in this form, and you should be able to square a. You should be able to multiply 2 times a, which is x, times b, which is 8. And then you are supposed to be able to square b, which is negative 8. So negative 8 squared. We have x squared here. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x times 8 is negative 16x. And then negative 8x squared is positive 64. So does this work? And this should be negative. So this is not a perfect square trinomial because when we square x minus 8, we do not end up with a middle term of negative 8. So again, not a perfect square trinomial. If it were minus 16x, then this would be a perfect square trinomial. For the next one, we have to solve, and we're going to begin by adding 28w to both sides. When we do that, we end up with 4w squared plus 28w plus 49. Alright, I'm going to take the two factors here. What factor times itself gives us 49? We'll try 7 and 7. And then we can look at two factors here. If we find the square root of 4, we end up with 2. And if we find the square root of w squared, it's w. So we have 2w and 2w. Alright, if this is the case, guys, remember we should be able to, if a is 2w and b is 7, we should be able to do a squared plus 2ab plus b squared and end up with our original. Let's see. 2w squared plus 2 times a, which is 2w, times b, which is 7, and then we're going to square 7. This gives us 4w squared. 2 times 2w is 4w, times 7 is 28w, and then 7 squared is 49. Wow, that worked out to what we started out with. So what does that mean? That means that we have 2w minus 7 plus 7 times 2w plus 7 equaling 0. We understand that if we have two of these factors written out, it is going to be a perfect square trinomial because it is a binomial square. So here we only need to solve one of them by setting it equal to 0. 2w plus 7 equals 0. You subtract 7 from both sides. When you subtract 7 from both sides, you end up with 2w equals negative 7. Now we divide both sides by 2 for a final answer of negative 7 halves. Remember, both are going to give you negative 7 halves, so your final answer for number 4 is simply 7 halves, negative 7 halves. Remember, we write our answer inside of a bracket. What do you notice about the number of solutions to a perfect square quadratic equation? There's only going to be one solution. Again, if we see 2w plus 7 equals 0 twice, you only need to solve it once because the answer is going to be exactly the same.